Hello, and welcome to the Daily Signal. Yesterday was a more interesting day than I thought it would be. The January 6th Commission, as you probably know, had an aide to the White House testify about what happened on January 6th. It does seem like the White House had more of an idea about the fact that J6 might, in fact, be a bit hairy than we previously thought. Trump tried to physically grab the wheel away from a Secret Service driver whilst they were driving away from the Capitol, which explodes the really quite useful myth that Trump basically just left his supporters to hang out in the breeze while he fled the scene, told him to go to the Capitol and then left. Now, the question that should be on everyone's mind is, what do conservatives think? Because liberals and progressives and leftists were already not fans of Mr. Trump, but what do the conservatives feel about all this? Is it having an effect? So let's go to the Daily Signal newsletter and see how they handled it. For a top thing on here is 4 big takeaways as White House aide testifies on Trump and Capitol riot. So let's see what their takeaways are. We're not going to read this whole thing. We don't have time for that shit. You can go look it up if you'd like to. Cheney, one of the 2 anti-Trump Republicans and the 9-member Democrat stacked panel, led the questioning, so this is already kind of painting a picture of bias. However, the takeaways themselves. First of all, the idea that Trump was indifferent to his people in the crowd carrying weapons because they weren't here to hurt him. And you'll notice without any kind of disclaimers, they don't actually soften this particularly. 2, attempting to influence witnesses. Cheney alluded to the idea that Trump might be attempting to influence witnesses to the J6 Commission and, showed some text that would seem to indicate that that's the case. So again, no caveats. Number 3, try to grab the steering wheel. And again, no disclaimers, which is interesting because actually by the time this went out this morning, the Secret Service had pushed back against this narrative. Now, I do think the Heritage Foundation doesn't always update things in a timely fashion, but all the same, this went out at 6:30 in the morning. We were already hearing that last night. They didn't put that in, and that is interesting. They're not softening this at all. Mike Meadows, Roger Stone, Flynn, a bunch of people had set up a what they were calling a war room, and then already angling for pardons. It talks about the thing where Flynn would not say whether he believed in the peaceful transfer of power, and nothing is softened. So that is really pretty cool, actually. The J6 Commission has penetrated into conservative circles. This is an opinion outlet for, a conservative think tank, and the fact that they didn't feel the need to cushion this is actually a very good sign. Now let's go back to the newsletter. The next item is called A Recipe for Biden Authoritarianism. So immediately what you've got is J6 was bad, but let's go right into the threat that the Democrats pose. Kind of indicates that the line is going to continue to be, okay, yes, J6 was real bad, but look over here, the Democrats are actively attempting to transform the United States into an authoritarian state, first by taking away the guns and then, turning us into some kind of Chinese-esque communist dystopia, all of that in giant air quotes, obviously. Okay, let's get down to business. Let's go ahead and watch part 3 of the 3-part series from the Babylon Bee, The Woke Zone. So yesterday we did Diary of a Frightened Man. That's not my name for it. That's literally what the Babylon Bee called it. And it was one of the most unintentionally on-the-nose things I've ever seen. You can check it out here if you missed it. Essentially, it was a man freaking out about riots and claiming that everyone else was crazy for not seeing them. And it was a great video if you kept in mind that 96.3% of the Black Lives Matter rallies between in May and June of 2020 were completely peaceful, and I mean no property damage and also no violence against people. When you keep that in mind, it's actually very funny to watch this man essentially hallucinate mass casualties and riots and the burning down of a city, and then have everyone around him go, "What are you talking about? Everything is fine." It was great. So today's video is very similar to that. The best way to enjoy it, really, is to just understand that the main character is in fact insane and hearing things that aren't there. So today's topic is critical race theory. So, content warning for racism, because I'm gonna do that whole thing. Let's watch the video.
You're traveling through another dimension. a dimension of ever-changing boundaries based on the latest
I am not going to
college
miss this
fad,
intro.
where every concept of justice is intersectional with terror. This is the Woke Zone. We need to teach our kids not to be racist. It's simple and easy. Tell them not to judge others based on race. But things are not so simple in the Woke Zone.
Things are not so simple anywhere. I don't know. I feel like don't judge, have a nice day might not be sufficient for America's racial problems, but I guess that's why I'm in the woke zone. Let's continue.
Happy birthday, sweetie. Wow, it's the new CRTina doll.
I'm CRTina, and racism is bad.
Whoa, what was that? I don't know if I care for this.
It's very popular. It's teaching all about the problems of racism.
I'm CRTina, and the racism of the past still has an effect today.
I guess that's okay.
Okay. A couple things. First of all, this is the worst birthday gift ever. Maybe because I wasn't really into dolls as a kid, I feel that way. But, like, I don't know. I feel like if I got CRTina for my birthday at that age, I'd be pretty mad. I don't know. It doesn't look like a fun toy. Secondly, I'm amused that the father is, like, upset that the doll said racism is bad and then mollified by the doll saying that the racism of the past affects us today. Now, both of those things are objectively correct, but I would expect him to get more angry about the second thing than the first. So it's just, I don't know, interesting choice. Let's see what happens.
Let's go get cake.
Yay, sugar! I'm CRTina, and I don't like you because you're a white man.
What?
I'm CRTina, and all white people are racist.
Yeah, so, like, again, that's not what critical race theory teaches at all. It is what he hears, though.
What are you doing?
There is something wrong with that doll. It says awful things.
I'm CRTina, and people of all races need to care for each other.
What's wrong with that?
That's not what it said. What it said was awful.
Hearing what we need to do to end racism won't always be easy, but you can't lash out.
I'm not lashing out.
I'm not lashing out! I mean, he's, seems very calm and definitely not completely insane.
It said...
Come on, Christy. Let's see who that is.
I'm CRTina, and we need to abolish whiteness.
Huh? Why?
Whiteness needs to die.
No, you need to die.
Okay. I like this. This is a chance to talk about... So, look, abolishing whiteness, right, is a terrible way to put it. Just for the record, I think that whoever came up with saying it that way is an idiot. But maybe it is the only way to say it. The idea behind that, if anyone is curious and doesn't know, is that white isn't really a race. White is a word for people who are regular. Like, the way we construct society, if you're white, then you're like the default, right? Like, it's not unusual to be white. Like, if I was describing somebody walking down the street who was white, I would be like, so there was a guy in, like, some shorts and a t-shirt, and it would be natural for me. If there's a black guy walking down the street, I might say there's a black guy in shorts and t-shirt. Like, I would specify, because you don't need to specify white. White is regular. You assume white and then put other things on top of it. Whiteness has expanded and contracted over the years to mean a lot of different things. 100 years ago, Italian people weren't white. Now they are. Jewish people certainly weren't white for a long time. Now they occupy a weird no man's land between the two, where it seems like it's just whatever is convenient for their antagonists. That's what they are at the moment, but whatever. Am I white? I don't really know. I certainly look white and am treated white, but my last name is Jadid and my father's from Syria, so, like, you fucking tell me. It depends on the context. Whiteness isn't a race, it's a status, and that is what we have to abolish. But that's not what this fella hears. What he hears is, I'm going to abolish you. You need to die, because he identifies very strongly with the label white. And again, I understand where this miscommunication comes from. I get it. I think that we should do a better job of explaining this. Honestly, if you have a catchphrase that's 2 words that sounds like you mean something that it doesn't, and then you need like a 30-second explanation to get there, it's probably not a very good slogan. Anyway, let's see what happens next.
It's you that needs to die.
Why are you yelling at the doll?
There is something very wrong with it. We can't have it near our daughter.
I'm CRTina, and we all have to actively fight against racism.
Maybe you need to look deep into your heart and see if there's something wrong with you.
I'm CRTina, and together we can end systemic racism.
I love you, CRTina.
I love you too. But you shouldn't love your father because he's a white man.
You stay away from my daughter!
What now?
This doll is evil! We need to get rid of it!
I'm CRTina, and I just want to teach about the horror of racism.
I don't know who you are anymore. We're leaving.
It's not very understanding of somebody who's clearly hallucinating, but, you know, go off. This is once again, as with everything else in this goddamn series, a manifestation of conservatives' wildest fears presented as sanity. It just sucks.
You turned my family against me!
Have I ever told you of the white supremacist roots of burlap?
Quiet! I'm sick of your race-obsessed nonsense! I'm getting rid of you once and for all!
Okay, the thing about the doll talking about the racist history of burlap is the only funny joke in this whole thing. Like, there is something actually genuinely funny about the idea of throwing the critical race theory doll into a burlap sack that is about to destroy her, and her going, hey, you do realize this too is racist, right? Like, I don't know if it's exactly funny in the way they intended it, but to me, it is very funny. Also, he walked super weird that way. I feel like the animation team could use some work. I know I'm one to talk. My green screen work is bad, and I don't know what I'm doing, but I bet this guy got paid. So anyway, let's see what happens next. By the way, this is where things get real weird, so I'm just going to let it play out. And then we're going to talk about what the fuck just happened, all right? So strap in. Let's go.
I have a doll in here that hates white people.
I'll have it banned from the state.
Really? Aren't there First Amendment concerns? That horrible doll has been banned, but I got you a new doll. Patriot Tammy!
I'm Patriot Tammy, and it's okay to be white.
I love you, Patriot Tammy.
I'm Patriot Tammy, and I'd even say it's good to be white.
What's that now?
In fact, being white is great.
Oh boy.
Hey, Eric, you said I could borrow your circular saw.
We're being robbed!
Maybe you don't need to get your daughter a doll. Maybe buy her a chemistry set and get her into STEM. Perhaps that's the best way to survive the woke zone.
So, the ending surprised me when I first watched this. I did not see that coming, and at first I was like, oh wow, that was like surprisingly chill of them. But it isn't. There's absolutely nothing chill about what just happened, and I will tell you why. So the doll gets banned. There is a brief nod to like the First Amendment problems with like banning a certain mode of thought. But and that you know, that kudos to them, I suppose. And then we go back and he gets a new doll that does the opposite thing, which this new doll isn't racist against white people like CRTina. Patriot Tammy's racist against black people. It's like racism exists. And you'd think, oh wow, like that's an actual nod to racism. I guess they do realize it's a problem. No, what this is some unbelievable grade A prime fucking both sideserism. They are equivocating critical race theory with like Ku Klux Klan out virulent white supremacy. That's what they're doing here. The conclusion, of course, is that you just shouldn't be thinking about this shit. Like, let's go back to the beginning of the video. Remember how they opened the way they defined racism at the very start?
We need to teach our kids not to be racist. It's simple and easy. Tell them not to judge others based on race. But things are not so simple in the woke zone.
Anti-racism, for the Babylon Bee, is don't judge people based on their skin color. It begins and ends there. It's an individual action that you can do, and unless you're consciously doing something, unless you're a KKK, Patriot Tammy racist, then you're not racist and there's no problem. There is no fundamental problem with race that can't be solved by sitting someone down and saying, hey, everyone's equal, glad we had a conversation, everyone go home, now we fixed everything. And I think that if you look back at the last 250 years of American history, you will find that that does not in fact fix anything. Like, at least for the last 150 years, we've started to say shit like that. And at no point has that ever been true. Systemic racism is extremely real. I don't have time to get into all of the examples of it, but oh boy, if you do a Google search, you will find some shit. We talked about police brutality yesterday. There was one of them. But basically, the conservative stance is that racism is an issue when you focus on race. I wrote an article about it. I'm going to link to it here, which is about the way that Republicans and minority Republicans view the issue of racism, which is basically that if you talk about it, if you point it out, you're the racist. Like, by noticing race and by noticing racial disparities, you are the one perpetuating racism, which is why CRTina and Patriot Tammy are the same fucking doll. And the answer, of course, as the video says, is not to get one at all. Just don't think about it.
Maybe you don't need to get your daughter a doll. Maybe buy her a chemistry set and get her into STEM. Perhaps that's the best way to survive the woke zone.
Right. So the point, the solution here is don't tell your kids anything about race. Just don't, because the minute you bring it up, you're going to ruin them. You're going to destroy them with the concept of race, and then suddenly race is going to be a thing. The answer is to go into STEM. Literally just avoid liberal arts. Don't think about politics. Don't think about sociology. Don't think about history. Go into something where the rules are very simple and you never have to think about it ever, because that's how we make it go away, is we just stop thinking about it. Anyway, hilarious, right? Like, was that not a laugh riot? Did you not howl from start to finish at the comedic stylings of the Babylon Bee? I certainly laughed the whole time at the very funny jokes that were in no way just like weird lampooning of imagined things, and a man actively hallucinating that a doll was talking to him. I think it also speaks to the age group that this is intended to, that CRTina has the little pull tab. Like, I wasn't even alive when that was a thing, and I'm pretty old. The young ones don't remember pull tab dolls, and nobody cares about them anymore. But, you know, whatever. This is clearly intended for boomers to share on Facebook, and I guess it's probably working. So, yeah, that's the video. That is the end of The Woke Zone. There may or may not be a video tomorrow. I am finishing up work on a Substack about January 6th, and I'll be doing a YouTube version of that where I read it out loud. If that happens tomorrow, there will not be a daily signal. It'll be that instead, and then we'll be back to the irregularly scheduled program whenever. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, everyone have a good day, and remember, if you think about racism, you're the real racist. Bye-bye.